Hello and welcome back to Global Focus today. I am Reverend Dr. Sharri Johnson, your host, and our guest this week is something else. I met this guest almost 20 years ago, and I have lived in 4 states since I met this guest, and everywhere I went, I ran into this person's work. Because our guest today is a religious science practitioner, but he is also an amazing musician. His name is Mark Hayes. He's an award-winning concert pianist. People come from Baptist churches to New Thought churches to hear this man sing or play. He's a composer and an arranger and a conductor of literally international renown. His personal catalog totals over 2,000 published works, CDs and books of music, and just amazing. He got a Bachelor of Music from summa cum laude, by the way. That means with the highest honor, from Baylor University in 1975. He has served as a frequent guest conductor at Lincoln Center. We'll hear more about that shortly. The National Cathedral and Carnegie Hall, featuring his own works, such as Te Deum, Magnificat, Gloria, and the International Carol Suites. In October 2014, Mark conducted his Requiem at St. Ignatius Basilica in Rome, Italy, as part of an international music festival sponsored by the Vatican. He gets around, in other words, and that's not all. He does amazing things with the piano, but he also does amazing things with his heart. And we're going to be talking about both of them. So please help me welcome Mark Hayes. Thank you so much for saying yes.
You're welcome, Reverend Sharri. It's good to be with you. So we have so many connections, and so this is fun to get to connect with what you do on your show
well,
today.
You know, wherever I would go, I would be always looking for a New Thought church, and they would always be playing music, and it would say arranged by Mark Hayes, and I would go, I know him. And they would go, yes, sure you do. But everybody has someone they know that they do that. You know, I know him.
Yeah.
So you're my pet celebrity.
All right. A legend in my own mind, as I say.
So I said you would talk more about the Lincoln Center. So why don't we start with that? Because that's really exciting.
Sure. I've had the chance, as you mentioned, to conduct in various kind of cool concert halls all over the United States and the world. And so one of the agencies has contacted me and said, Mark, we'd like for you to conduct at David Geffen Hall, which used to be Avery Fisher Hall in New York City. So it's been rehabbed or redone by a wealthy billionaire named David Geffen. And I thought, I want to write something brand new. So there'd be like a world premiere. And so I thought, what do I want to say? And one of the values of my life, I don't do it perfectly, but an important value is kindness. So I thought, can I write something about kindness that an orchestra and a choir of like 150 singers can sing in this august hall? And so I started thinking about what choir singers from churches and community choruses and universities like to sing. And a lot of them like to sing Baroque music. So what is Baroque music? Yeah, it's basically, if you think of Johann Sebastian Bach or George Frederick Handel or Haydn, they wrote in the Baroque era. And Baroque, if like you're talking about architecture is kind of the real ornate, embellished kind of things. And so I thought, okay, I know a lot of people say, oh, I sang in Handel's Messiah. They have these sing-alongs and they love that. And one of the things that Baroque music has is it's called melismas, which is a kind of fancy musical term. And it's like a vocal run where they go, la, that kind of thing. And it's hard to sing. And I didn't do a very good job of it, but they like that. They like the sound of Baroque music. And I thought, what if I put a contemporary text about issues of the world today with this kind of iconic, almost ancient, more traditional musical style? So I wrote a 30-minute composition in the Baroque tradition. So the orchestra sounds Baroque and the music sounds Baroque, but it's original by me. And I had the idea of having a chorale. So back in Bach's day, he wrote lots of chorales for his church to sing. And a chorale is just like a modern day hymn or hymns that we grew up with. Okay. And so I wrote my own original chorale tune and the text to go with it. And then also I wrote a fugue. Well, a fugue is kind of like this little bite-sized melody. And Bach wrote these for organ and piano, but also for voices. And then you introduce like this little, instrumental melody. And then there's another part that comes and layers on top of that. That's the same melody, but it's going at a different kind of speed almost, or they intersect. It's called a counter melody. So it complements the first melody, and you can have 2 or 3 or 4 different melodies or parts going on at the same time, which is what I've done in my musical. And then just as a challenge to myself, I wrote a retrograde melody. And you say, well, what is that? Well, that's where you play the music backwards. Yeah, you start with the last note and go to the first note. And so I did that. And so I decided, what do I want to talk about? So I decided I wanted to talk about kindness, courage, and compassion. So those are the 3 elements of this. And I have the 2 soloists in it that are kind of like opera type soloists, classically trained. I just recorded this with an amazing professional chorale here in Kansas City called Spire Chorale Ensemble or Choral Ensemble, and with part of the Kansas City Symphony Players. Did that recently, and waiting to get that all mixed, and that'll be available in about a month. So it was really exciting to hear the conductor conduct it in the session, and I just got to listen to what had only been in my mind or played back on my computer, which doesn't sound very good, So anyway, that is happening May 26th. I have 144 singers that will be on stage. They're coming from all over the United States. And I sent the music ahead of time, so they supposedly have learned it. I hope they definitely have learned it. And then I will be part of a concert on Sunday afternoon, and the first half is going to be a different conductor and choir singing a Mozart piece, and then the second half will be the world premiere of this piece, as well as another piece I wrote called "The Field," which is with a text by the 13th century mystic Rumi.
Oh, God, I love Rumi.
Yeah.
Do you think you want to carry your bags?
Well, so I'm very excited. I've not conducted in the David Geffen Hall yet. I've conducted in the old version. That's the artwork for this new project, chorale and fugue in the Baroque tradition, and so I'm hoping to get this published and have it available, as a CD or the sheet music in this.
Oh, let me know the minute that CD is available.
Yeah.
Because I know your music, and I know that people are going to be humming those little bite-sized things. People are going to be humming for days after they hear that concert.
Well, I've been humming it myself.
The words that go with them are going to be just so good.
Yeah,
I'm just so impressed.
Well, Sharri, when I was growing up, I was raised in an evangelical church, and I was kind of a shrimp. I was a little guy. So I'm not tall even now, but I was a gentle soul. I'll just say it that way, and not super shy, but a gentle soul, and not nearly as extroverted as you are, And I know you never meet a stranger. And so I know a lot of times, in the Bible, it says, blessed are the meek, they shall inherit the earth. But meekness and gentleness and all that kind of gets a bad rap, because it's like, oh, they're a wimp, they're a wuss. And I thought, to be kind really takes a lot of courage, especially in today's world. And so I thought, I want to write a text for this project that we mentioned, that's about more than just the idea of the kindness that people think about. Oh, well, if they really could just speak up for themselves, they'd be strong, and they tell you what to do, and all these things that the world doesn't need more of. They need compassion, they need courage and kindness. So writing this was kind of a way of me going back into my life earlier and going, who do I want to be? If I could say back when I was 5 years old, who I wanted to be when I'm 70, I would want to be a person that had a kind spirit that was strong, that said all the things that the world needs to hear in a courageous way, but did it with compassion. So this is my musical kind of testimony of that.
I can't wait. I
Yeah.
just, like I said, I know your music. I've heard your
Yeah.
music for almost 20 years now, and I can't wait. And I have to say, because Mark and I are connected in lots of ways, and one of those ways is through a racial equity group, a class that he's teaching and I'm taking. And it absolutely connects with what you just said. It
Yeah.
absolutely does. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about Allies for Racial Equity.
Sure. Okay. Well, this is a group that's based out of Centers for Spiritual Living, Kansas City, where I go. And my husband is the senior minister, spiritual director there. I've been there for many, many years, and that's one of the connections I have with Sharri too. So the group came from a book study, and we began reading books like about white fragility, and I had no idea what is that. What is white fragility? Well, that's when white people like me get kind of weirded out if everybody starts talking about racism. It's like, well, that feels so uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about that. And as a white person, that's exactly what I need to be talking about, because a lot of the systemic racism that comes in the form of our government or education or the prison system or all that in our country has been based on some really bad choices we made as a country about slavery 200 years ago. And even though you can say, well, I'm not responsible for that, there are things that I know that I'm responsible for now that I can do to make a difference. So this group we had a book study, but we also had an incredible woman named Lisa Henry, who is an African-American teacher. She teaches music in the middle schools here in Kansas City, but she's also a worldwide, renowned jazz musician. And so she came and taught our small class for about a year and just told us kind of how it was to be a Black woman who had, like, I believe her brother was murdered by a white cop. So she's had lived experience about how it is to be Black in our country, and just told us, this is how you can make a change. So we have been doing our best to kind of learn about our unconscious bias, learn if we feel white privilege and what that is, and how we can be an ally for racial equity. And so that's kind of a little bit about how that's going. And I've learned so much about myself. That's what I'm learning about.
That's what the thing that hooked me was the first time y'all talked about the allies, and you said the most important thing I learned is what I don't know.
Yeah. Oh.
So could you explain what allies are, because not everybody is familiar with that term?
Right. Allies are people that stand alongside the people that are oppressed, and this can be a Native American, this can be a person of any kind of different ethnicity than you. We've chosen to focus in on Black people, African Americans, to be their allies. And an ally is one is willing to say, I'm going to stand with you when it's uncomfortable, and it may be to my detriment to do that, or I may lose respect for my friends for doing that, but I'm going to stand with you because I've not lived your experience, but I want to understand your lived experience and have compassion for you. And that can be in the form of, I'm going to go to a protest, out on the street and say, this is wrong. It can be, I'm going to write my legislator and say, I don't think you're passing the right kind of laws because they discriminate against, Black people. This can be donating your time, your money to any kind of thing, but a lot of it is that you are educating yourself so that your unconscious biases or prejudices you don't even know you have, kind of like what Reverend Dr. Sharri said, it's like, I don't know what I didn't know. And you are willing to heal those and then say, I know all the history that's gone behind here, and I'm going to stand with you. And you're the person that, I would love it if a Black person said, I know I can call Mark Hayes and he's going to help me. He's going to talk me through this, or be there for me if I need him. That to me would be the best, definition of an ally.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
there's some sacrifice involved, I guess, is part of it. Some uncomfortableness in the fight, because as you can tell, like specifically for African Americans, they've lived their whole life in discomfort, having to kind of go, okay, if I say this, what will this white person think of me, or how will that come across? And I don't have to think about that, because I got white privilege. So,
well, I admit I have learned a tremendous amount. When George Floyd was murdered, I started taking classes. I was living in 2 hours from everything, Arkansas. There was nobody around me. I didn't have anyone to take classes with, but I took classes. And online, it was the pandemic, so online was the only option anybody had. But I was really grateful when I got here and moved back to Kansas City. And I don't think I was here 6 weeks before you guys gave a presentation on Sunday, and I went, oh, maybe. And and I was cocky. I'd been taking classes for 2 years. I knew what was going on.
Sure.
Ha. And the interesting thing is that for me, at least, the experience of being an ally is being willing to be content with my own appreciation. Okay. Because you're not being an ally if you expect the Black person that you're supporting to thank you for supporting them.
Right. Yeah.
Because a white person wouldn't need to thank you for supporting them. So why should a Black person need it? That was one of the things that I went, where did that come from? So things like that really are important. And I love how you blend music and activism all the time. I mean, you do concerts and you have amazing musicians with you, singers and oh, that cellist, oh my heavens. And I never knew who they were. It never would have occurred to me to look for this person, but you find them and you bring them out, and it's a gift to everyone who's anywhere in ear range of them.
Yeah. Well, my journey around music, I mean, of course, I mentioned earlier, I was raised in an evangelical kind of fundamentalist Christian church. So God was a man. It was the Lord, the King, all that kind of stuff. And over the years, through all the various spiritual journeys that I've had, I ended up leaving the Southern Baptist, church. And now I'm very much in Centers for Spiritual Living, New Thought. So I still get asked to write, okay, will you write a choir arrangement for Protestant churches about Jesus's resurrection or Jesus being on the cross? And I don't believe that theology anymore. So I have to kind of come to terms with, okay, how do I want to take that job at all? Because I can say yes or no, I'm self-employed. Or do I want to write something else that talks about suffering, but doesn't necessarily have to do with Jesus' suffering, and if you don't believe he died for your sins, you're going to hell, kind of thing. So my lyric writing has changed a lot now. I try to always, if possible, when I'm speaking about God, I don't use it, because even though I use that in my own spiritual center, that wouldn't work for that audience. But I don't use masculine terms for God. If I try to be genderless when I speak about God in writing, so that little by little, churches are, that are not maybe in the same place I am on my spiritual journey, but they're going, okay, God is not just, a man with a long white beard in the sky. Because that's how I believed most of my life, Oh
yeah. Well, and one of the things I love about New Thought is that it's a real easy one step to the side, and I'm in the middle of interfaith. And interfaith is my thing. I think interfaith is the key to world peace. I really do. I think it's the key to everything. And I have noticed that there is a very subtle and very slow shift happening in the interfaith community, at least, away from from the Santa Claus God in the sky.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And I have used your music. I do a world peace meditation every Wednesday. I put it on the internet. I send it out to 100 places, and I have used your lyrics for the song you wrote called Namaste as a meditation.
Yeah.
And got, by the way, wonderful response from that. Because you do that. I think when you're composing, you're just praying with a keyboard.
Yeah, very much.
That's what it feels like. So
I went to this very helpful Baptist church when I first moved to the Kansas City area for about 19 years before I left and ended up going to a Unity church and then to Center for Spiritual Living. But at the time, the minister, his name was Paul Smith. He just died about 2 or 3 months ago. I was able to play for his service. He was 87. He was at that church for 49 years. And he taught us about the idea of spiritual gifts, which you can look in the New Testament and find some information about that, or other sacred books. But we did like this whole retreat on the weekend, and we took like a kind of a test, like answer this question. It was like a personality profile almost. And then at the end, you say, well, your spiritual gifts may be. And then you talk to friends of yours or family, and they would say, yeah, I can definitely see that in you. They kind of helped confirm that. So mine ended up being teaching, creativity, and affirmation or encouragement. And so back then, I thought, well, I'm not a teacher. I'm not like a teacher, so who knows if that really fits. But I could see the creativity coming out in my music. But interestingly enough, whenever I would write some of my first piano arrangements, and sometimes these would just be gospel hymns, and I would do my version of it, and it got published. And people would call me up or email me or write me and say, when I play your music, I just feel like overwhelmed by the Holy Spirit. It's like there's something inside of me or bigger than me playing through my fingers, and your music just has this emotive quality. And I experienced that myself, but I never thought anybody else would. I thought it was just me playing my music, but it was actually written into the notes of the music, and people have told me that for years. So to me, that is that kind of creativity that's like anointed, can use kind of a religious word, by the Holy Spirit, and it translates anywhere that music is played, no matter if I'm playing it or conducting it or singing it or not. So that just feels like this great honor and responsibility as I have kind of download what Spirit gives me.
There you go. Because I think that talents and gifts are always divine.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody does anything powerful that isn't expressing the divine.
Yeah.
And I'm with all those folks who told you that, because when you play music, my heart sings. That's just all it is.
Well, I write music full time. I'm basically self-employed. This is my 44th year of doing this, which is pretty amazing, and I love it. But I also go out and concertize, and one of the things I do is I direct choirs, because I write lots of choral music. So, for instance, Friday of this week, I'll be in Tyler, Texas, and I will be conducting my Requiem with a church choir there. And it's a longer piece, this kind of classical sounding. It's in Latin. There'll be an orchestra and a choir. I was there 3 weeks ago to rehearse them, and I'm coming down for the performance now. But when I go in and work a lot of times with choirs I've never seen, never met in my life, I'm just hired to come in for the weekend. It's called a composer festival or weekend. I think about, okay, I want to affirm these people, so when I leave, they feel better about themselves, whether they're excellent singers or not. The joy of getting to sing is what it's about. I want to teach them something in a way that they don't know they're being taught, because who wants a talking head, So sometimes it's about how I wrote the music and what inspired me, and that's interesting to them, how to sing it better, how to love each other better, So, and then the creativity, is just kind of comes actually in how I present to them, not only in the music, but how I come off Am I approachable? Am I loving? Do I see the divine in them? Sometimes I've sung Namaste to them and said, let's all sing this together, just as a song. And because they have it in a lot of churches, the concept of them being divine, is like, no, I'm a sinner. I'm a worm. I'm not, and so I have to, I don't go into like a theological discourse about that. I just say, you're made in God's image. And I like to really concentrate on that, the inherent goodness and divinity we have in each other more than anything. And just right off the bat, and so it's so funny that those 3 spiritual gifts identified probably 35 or 40 years ago are in operation every single time I go out and work with people. And I'm intentional and conscious of that.
When I first started my journey to ministry, I was in prac training. And there was a term that they used on the very first day, and I went, yeah, right, sure, go ahead. But you are the absolute embodiment of this term, and it is practitioner consciousness. It is spiritual heart.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about going and working with that choir for a weekend,
yeah,
it's a retreat. They don't know they're on a retreat, but they're on a retreat.
I guess it is. I hadn't thought about that way. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, of course, you're a minister, and I'm that's not my degree, but I'm a practitioner, licensed practitioner, as you are. And so I had no idea what that was until I started studying all that. And that's been many, many years ago. But of course, as you well know, as a minister, the more you have that consciousness, the easier it is to just be in that kind of state. And so it's not like checking off, like I've got to do this, and this to make sure I'm in the groove. It's like you live it. And so
there's no algorithm.
No, yeah, I start my meditation in the morning with that kind of thing. And recently I've just been going, okay, just let's start with I am divine. Because for me to say that and be okay with that, I've had to really heal years and years of no, you're not, you're bad, you should be ashamed. All those things that the world has told us. And I've let go of those and continue to do that. And to just be, wow, the amazing cosmos is kind of at my fingertips, and all the gifts and the things that God is in me, ready to be used as long as I want to just do it, So that is a fun way to start your day.
It is that. It is that. Now there are a set of 4 or 5 questions that I ask every single guest.
All right.
And so here's the first one. It's probably the most important one from your perspective. And it is there anything that you would like the folks who are watching this to know about you or to hear from you that I haven't asked you about?
Well, sure. I will. I just turned 70 and I'm going to be 71 Thursday. And I thought about, you're an elder, Mark, kind of thing. And so how do you want to live the rest of your life? So I began thinking about the things I want to speak about and teach about and be a kind of a lightning rod for, or a banner is about LGBTQ issues, and also just kind of music and racial equity. And so I have just a brief story about the LGBTQ thing. So I'm happily married to my husband. We've been together 26 years. But it was 39 before I was really okay with being who I am. And one of the things that happened was at the former church, it was called Broadway Baptist, where I learned about spiritual gifts. I had this experience where I went forward for prayer, and the pastor's wife, I just kind of told her I was really struggling with my gay identity and how to connect that with spirituality. She said, well, I have a word from Mother God from you. And the word was, my child, I've been waiting for you to come to me for so many years. You are, I love you just as you are. There's nothing to change. And at the time I thought, okay, I know what the Bible says about homosexuality. That can't possibly be true. But by faith, that night I chose to take that message in for the first time in my life And finally, about a year later, I was able to kind of start being willing to come out. But see, the thing that was at stake was I was working for the evangelical church music industry, where if I had come out, it would have been bye to your whole career. So I had to kind of go, do I believe in a God that is loving and accepting enough and powerful enough that I can be totally who I am, authentic, in every way, and I'll still have a way, I'll still be taken care of. And once I made that choice, and over several years of kind of letting that be known and stuff, like my career has flourished 1,000 times more than when it did before that. So I like to speak about that in appropriate ways to people that need to know that, because I have so many friends that still work in the church music industry that are closeted and feel like they can't be their true selves. And so I wanted to share that with your people.
That's wonderful. Okay, so the next question, I think you're set up for this next question. It is, how does what you do as a musician, as an ally, as a practitioner, how does what you do encourage, enhance, support, pick your own verb, conscious evolution?
I think my music speaks to people's hearts. And so when people's hearts and emotions are touched, they're willing to grow. They're willing to change their mind, perhaps, about what their beliefs are. As an ally, I'm definitely in that camp. And like in our class tonight, we're going to be just practicing how to talk to other white people. And when white people that are maybe a skeptic, or they're like mildly racist but don't know it, and then all of a sudden their walls go up, it's like, don't you be talking to me about that. We're gonna learn about how to keep that conversation going and find a commonality with somebody that you think's on the other side of the fence about that issue. And so to me, that is definitely conscious evolution, changing people's minds about finding out what they don't know about themselves, just like I am continuing to do that, So, and I think as I treat or pray for people affirmatively at CSL, or just in my own office here with our prayer work each week, the words I believe that have emotion connected to them, that are consciously intentional, like sending this out into the universe, they are changing the universe. I don't often see it because that's not for me to know, but I by faith know and trust that my word is powerful, because God hears it and does what God does to manifest, whatever I've asked for. So each time I'm involved with that, that is, again, enhancing the evolution of consciousness.
See, I knew you'd have a great answer for that one. Okay, here's the second one, or the third one. And it sounds like the same question, but it's just a little bit different.
Okay.
How does what you do as a musician, as an ally, as a practitioner, how does that contribute to, unveil, support, pick your own verb, world peace?
Well, certainly as an ally, if people understand themselves better, they're going to be less likely to label a Black person, a queer person, a Native person as other. And that, to me, is the beginning of peace, when I see myself in you. Okay. I created a CD and a piano book called Peaceful Piano. And it was just simply 25 little songs. They're totally instrumental. There's no words to them, but they're all about being kind of zen, at peace. Some of them are in a minor key, some are in a major key. I think maybe the longest one is 2 minutes long, but they're like, just kind of like, take a breath musically, listen to this and chill out. So, we talk about world peace. Well, we all know that it starts with you. There's that kind of trope there, but it does. If you're not at peace with yourself, then don't be expecting Israeli and Palestine to be at peace over there if you're not starting here. So by music, some of that kind of music gives people a sense of peace because it starts kind of in their spirit or in their emotions. And I hope to continue to write that kind of music.
All right. You just set me up for the next question. Seriously, you might want to shut your eyes for this one because it requires imagination.
All right.
Presuming that everything goes exactly the way you want it to go, every little detail, every little interaction, every relationship, every event goes exactly the way you want it to go. What does Mark Hayes, RScP, pianist, ally, look like 10 years from now?
Wow. Well, I want to be still a healthy, man that's happily married to my husband, enjoying travel all over the world just for fun to relax because I'm a very, very type A person. and when Mike talks about retiring, I'm like, well, why should I? I love what I do. Why would ever want to give up writing music? But I think there's a part of me too that wants to have written even bigger and grander music that for orchestra and choir or singers that is kind of like this whole kindness project. Maybe it'll be like Kindness 2.0. I have no idea what that will be, but I want to, when people meet me, feel like they sense that higher consciousness, and I'm one of those kind of kind people. And so I have this really reminds me of this story. So when I was at Broadway Baptist, still very kind of evangelical church, but it was kind of helping me get rid of some of the old messages in theology. There used to be some people from one of the Unity churches that would occasionally visit Broadway because we had such great music. And when I talked to them, there was this sense about like, who are you? You're just like somebody I want to be. There's something different about you that I've never experienced. And I think it was their consciousness. They were at peace with themselves. They projected a sense of love and acceptance, no judgment. So I want to be even more of that, whoever I meet 10 years from now.
Okay. And here's my last question. Will you come back?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. The next opening I have is February 25th of next year. Can I pencil you in?
Well, I will look at my calendar and get back with you because that sounds like I'll be happy to do that unless I'm traveling. So
outstanding. And if you're traveling, we'll just pick a different day.
We will do it. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much for saying yes.
Sure.
And thank you all for being here. Don't miss next week. We have a minister who is not just a minister, but also either a commodore or an admiral. I can't remember which. She's a sailor.
Okay.
And really fascinating. Her name is Janine Burns, Reverend Dr. Janine Burns, and she's a hoot and a half. You're going to love her, so don't miss it.
Funnier than you?
Yeah. Have a good
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Amazing. Amazing. You will do amazing